Hello and welcome to this week's Scrimshaw Show. My name's Evan Scrimshaw. I'm mad about Sarah Jama and Doug Ford saying he wants to create a tunnel under the 401. I don't really want to write a column about the 401. I'm already recording with birthday boy Nathaniel Arfin to do the football show, so I figured I would just do 20 or 30 minutes on Ontario so I don't have to write a column. I am writing a column at Sarah Jama. It'll be up by the time people are listening to this. Actually, that's not true because I'm going to save that so I can put the podcast. I can link the podcast in the thing. Anyways, Nathaniel, happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks very much.
I am
Yeah,
really mad at you though for something. Would you like to explain the great heinous crime against Canada that you committed in the pre-show?
sure. I have different music tastes than you, and you decided to lead us in with a nice rendition of some Neil Young.
I made a reference of getting back into the black in a financial matter, and I just started doing my hey hey by Neil Young. Um and he just completely no showed me. He just didn't get the reference, didn't know what I was doing, had no response, just completely no showed me. The album, screw it. I know you don't give a shit. Can I have 90 seconds? It's my own podcast. Fuck it. I'm doing it anyways. The number of people who act like Rest Never Sleeps saved Neil's career. It didn't need saving. On the Beach is arguably one of his best albums. In 76, he does On the Beach, and he does, it was On the Beach 75 or 76, whatever. But On the Beach is the last of the quote unquote Ditch trilogy. It's actually quite good. I don't really understand why it gets thrown into the Ditch trilogy other than we like trilogies and we like thematic unity or whatever. But he does that. He does Long May You Run with Stephen Stills. But like he was fine musically. He takes a couple years off at the end. He does Rust Never Sleeps in 79. I just reject the notion that Rust Never Sleeps, which is a great album. I love Sail Away. Obviously love My Hey Hey, right? His career did not need saving after On the Beach. On the Beach is a musical masterpiece. Motion Pictures is one of his best songs. On the Beach is amazing. Get the fuck out of here with this idea that his career needed saving with Rust Never Sleeps. Absolutely, totally reject it. Utter nonsense. And everybody who perpetuates this myth is disrespecting On the Beach, which is one of Neil's best albums. And frankly, I would put On the Beach track for track up against both After the Gold Rush and Harvest. And frankly, I think On the Beach wins both of those fights because the highs of On the Beach are so good. I know you don't give a single shit about anything I just said, but whatever. You made me mad. Welcome to the show, buddy.
I'm glad I was able to bring out that musical passion in you. Um, so yeah,
So it's Sarah
you
Jama. So Merritt Styles on Wednesday confirmed that there is an executive committee, executive council, whatever, meeting to discuss the electoral impacts of not letting Sarah Jama back into the party. A former liberal whose name I'm not going to give the satisfaction of saying on this podcast has apparently been trying to broker talks between Sarah Jama and the NDP. Um, Sarah Jam is a rape denialist, a fervent anti-Semite who claimed that the Zionist lobby controls an entire government operation to defend the idea that her censure in the Ontario legislature was again the result of the Zionist lobby. Just say Jews. Just make it easier for all of us and just say Jews because that's what you mean. Um, she has claimed that the IDF have admitted that that the reporting that has come out from independent sources, including Harrods, the New York Times, the Guardian, and others, none of the three publications I've named are particularly nice to either the IDF or the Israeli government of Bibi Netanyahu. That Israeli women were sexually assaulted on and after October 7th by Hamas fighters. Um, she's a reprehensible piece of shit. She's an odious scumbag. She lied to Merritt Styles, by the way, because she refused to just tell Merritt Styles to her face that she was not going to go along with what the leadership wanted, with the leadership deal after her terrible October 10th statement that does not condemn Hamas, the killing of Israelis specifically, or in any way do anything other than suggest that she thinks that frankly October 7th was entirely justified because of the Israeli uh, because of the historical Israeli settler colonialism and the treatment of Gazans. Um, she's scum. She needs to go the fuck away. And if Merritt Styles puts her back in the NDP, that party will get sub 10 seats and will deserve to get sub 10 seats.
I think I think you really touched on the majority of the key components of Merritt Styles and Sarah Jama and the background here. Now the one thing I do have to say about Jama's removal from the caucus is at the end of the day, it did come down to the fact that she lied to the staff and lied to her party. And I think that that's a really important thing that gets forgotten in the mess that is, was, and has been Sarah Jama's time as the MPP for Hamilton Center and before. Um,
I could have the wrong MPP in mind, but I believe it was Kristen Wong Tam who gave like a I don't want to say a press conference, but a press scrum a few days after JAMA and basically said all of the things that JAMA said, just in a slightly less incendiary way. The notion that it is somehow that the NDP does not support people standing for Palestinian rights is absolute nonsense because half of their caucus would be out on their ass if that was true.
yeah, exactly. Now, there's a lot of nuance to the treatment before and after, and there's arguments to be made there. What I will say um, is that Sarah Jama has done an excellent job in the constituency, in the riding, um, coordinating with people on the ground and building a community around her independent run for MPP should the election come anytime soon. She has received endorsements from the United Steelworkers. She received an endorsement from the councillor in the area, Cameron Croach. Uh, there's there's a lot that she has done, and she's been, I think, in large part because of her ouster from the party, she has been able to be on the ground in the riding at her constituency office very, very frequently. And I've heard from advocates on the ground, support workers in Hamilton Center who have told me that Sarah Jama has been incredibly involved and has built a support network through that community.
Okay, well, all of those people can burn in hell straight up. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't give a shit. She's a moral vacuum. She claims to care about this shit, but apparently, if you're a Jew, it doesn't fucking matter. If you apparently only certain people's deaths matter to her, and she's a fucking piece of shit. But so okay, first let's have like the reasonable, rational conversation about like her actual chances, which is we have like a big amount of essentially survivor bias when it comes to remembering independent candidacies, right?
That's
Um,
definitely true.
do you know the last? I'm pretty sure because Roman Baber didn't run for reelection. I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. That the last MPP to run to run after being booted from caucus, it would have been Jack McLaren, right? In 2018, in my home riding of Connecticut Carleton, dude got like sub 4%. Like
I've
we
I feel
tend
like
to
there was one
remember, you know,
recently.
even looking at the UK, right? Like, you know, oh, a bunch of pro-Gazan independence won this time around, but one, those were in seats with huge Muslim populations. Um, which is not really true of Hamilton Center. I mean, obviously it's a racially diverse constituency. I don't know that Gaza will matter nearly as much there as they do in some of the seats in Leicester or whatever. But here's the other thing: we remember
Bobby and
it's
Brady
we
currently
remember
sitting.
big. Okay, but like that wasn't an incumbent, right?
She no, she was wait, this
And
was
that's
a
and that's but that's also a different kind of thing. That's a more rural seat. That's a that's internal politics getting wonky. Like she had the
it
endorsement of the
was very
previous
much she was
MPP.
a conservative. She won as a conservative, but as an
Yeah,
independent. Yeah,
and
for
and
sure.
also that was in a again that kind of like that's more of like your Tony Windsor esque sort of Australian politics, which I'll get into in a minute. But like we remember big local independent runs that are successful. We just all collectively forget when Simon Danchuk gets 1,000 votes at some by-election in the UK, right? We forget it's a massive survivor bias, and we tend to compare these to successful runs, and it's not always the case that these are going to be successful runs. Most of the time, these kinds of independent former whatevers who get booted from caucus maybe get 20%. Who was the oh
Let me
god
make the
former
mathematical
MP
case.
in Avalon, I believe, who got tossed out of the 20 of the Harper majority. I think he got what, like 19ish.
Oh, it's never gone well for an independent running after
Of course not.
being removed. But
Here's the thing. So here's the thing. She can create whatever support network she wants. She can get the fucking steelworkers, whatever. She's an anti-Semite. She's a rape denialist anti-Semite. Do you seriously think the people of Hamilton Center are going to vote for that?
it's not so much that, but what I'm looking at from the mathematical case. Let's say it's even somewhat similar to the 2022 election where in Haldeman Norfolk, where Bobby M. Brady got 35% and Ken Hewitt, the progressive conservative candidate, got in with 30.9. So they split the conservative share basically 60-40, right?
65-35, yeah.
Well, Jama in 2022 won 54% of the vote. So she didn't have 65 like the conservatives did. Let's say she
Oh,
splits
and
it
also significantly
40-60.
underran Horvath, right?
Yes. Who had 57%. It was a 3% swing, -3.
Yeah.
So from a mathematical standpoint, I'm worried about a split here and a conservative coming up the middle.
I mean, it's the thing is though is that that's not really a credible concern. What did the PCs get last time?
15.4.
Yeah, the idea that they would get even 25 is laughable. Like they're more likely to come fourth in the third, because I actually don't think Jama. The other thing is I don't think Jama can get 25, right? Like I think she gets 12. So I mean, I actually think she gets sub 10, but like at most she gets 12, 15.
Well, what's your current, this is fantastic podcasting, but what's your current swing on that riding?
I'm sure if I were to pull up my model, which I'm not going to do right now because it's not updated to the polls. I'd probably have the PCs around like 18 on vote share.
I think that there's an interesting mathematical analysis to be done here. That may make it favorable if the NDP want to
How
pick
are
up
the cons going to get
NDP
to
Senate.
25? That's the problem with your mathematical interesting. How do you get the cons to 25?
Well, it doesn't have to be the cons, right? The liberals could come up the middle too. And
I'm sorry. Do you think Bonnie Crombie is going to play particularly well in Hamilton Center?
I don't, but Deirdre Pike came in with 20% last by-election.
Sure. But like again, so I think you're like massively making this out to be more interesting. Sarah Jam is going to run. She's going to get 15% if she's independent. What matters to what's much more interesting to me is not the local Hamilton. Who gives a shit? It's Hamilton. It's the worst city in fucking Ontario. Fuck Hamilton. Um, I've been there once. It fucking sucked. Fuck Hamilton. Um, why is Merritt Styles considering this? It seems
Well,
like a horrible idea to consider this. The case that I'm making in the piece is that what the advocates for JAMA are essentially doing is making a sunk cost fallacy argument, which is to say, don't get caught by the sunk cost fallacy. But the thing about the sunk cost fallacy is that the premise is we know that we made a mistake, right? And the argument against the sunk cost fallacy is to not sort of perpetuate that mistake, right? Um, Give me like a horrible sports trade, right? Deshaun Watson. We'll use that one, right? The Browns gave up 3 first-round picks and signed him to this massive contract. You don't perpetuate that mistake by playing the worst quarterback in football. He is literally, by most advanced metrics, the worst quarterback currently playing in football. And they're continuing to play him because he makes all this money. That is a sunk cost fallacy because they made the fundamental mistake was trading for him and signing him to that contract. The problem for the NDP is they made the right decision. The decision to get rid of her was obviously morally correct. I literally will not listen to anybody who tells me otherwise. An anti Semite, you cannot claim to care about bigotry and hatred if your hatred and contempt for bigotry and hatred does not extend to Jews. Okay. You fundamentally cannot. You cannot be a party that claims to care about women's rights if you only care about sexual violence when the victims are not Jews. Okay? There is no moral case for her being in the party. She is a shit stain on the Ontario legislature. Fuck her. What is notable and interesting to me is that they're trying to act like the NDP made a tactical mistake. They lost the Kitchener Center by-election. Proponents of JAMAs argue because they alienated pro-Palestinian leftists. Okay. The fact that they ran a NIMBY local councilor seems to just like completely be ignored by this because that's not convenient for the narrative. But here's the thing, right? Merritt staked a considerable amount of her not very large internal credibility with the party on the idea that Sarah Jamin needed to go. And if you're Merritt Styles and you walk that back, you've just hung a flip flop around like a literal flip flop around your neck saying nothing that I say has any meaning whatsoever. Because fundamentally, Styles is a leader with no internal mandate, right? She was not elected leader, she was a claimed leader.
Yep.
The party wouldn't even tell us how many people voted for her in the fake do you support this acclamation. Like, he didn't even release those results, which probably means there was a fairly sizable dissent faction, right? Because if it was 98%, they would have released that. She has little internal credibility. What internal credibility she does have, she staked on this. If she lets this go, she might as well just give up. She might as well just resign. And frankly, if you look at where the actual Ontario NDP battleground is, it's Windsor, it's Temiskaming, it's Thunder Bay, it's Oshawa, it's Niagara, it's PCPO NDP contests. And how do you think backing in an anti-Semite is going to play in fucking Windsor with culturally conservative union workers, steel workers, uh, uh, sort of blue collar jobs who, frankly, think that Israel, maybe is not perfectly justified for everything they've done, but thinks that Hamas is a terrorist group and that October 7th was a great crime. Like, how is backing Sarah Jama even the electorally sensible play?
Well, and this comes back to the NDP not fundamentally being a coherent party. It's as you always say, two parties stuck together with duct tape. And Sarah Jama obviously represents the social socially progressive, I guess you could call them champagne socialists
I think
who
stridently progressive was the verbiage I used in the piece today. Also, I do really feel really bad for everybody who is like a loyal reader and loyal listener to my content because I know we have this conversation every time the NDP comes up. I'm sorry. I'm bored of talking about the two parties stuck together with duct tape. I know you are too, buddy, but it's true. Keep going. Make your point.
it's well, and this is they're very vulnerable, the NDP, to this specific type of attack on the right because Doug Ford is the type of guy who wants to build things. I mean, we saw it yesterday with the 401 announcement. The ridiculous tunnel to nowhere that's not ever going to get built is endorsed by LiUNA. And it's endorsed by LiUNA because it means jobs for their members and it means work. They're advocating for their people. And as a result, they're supporting the populist who builds, who gives them jobs, who cares about the average worker.
And who definitely does not give a single shit about the general priorities of the strident urban progressive left around Palestinian rights and what's happening in Gaza in specific, but about all of the progressive causes, about trans rights. These are the kinds of people who have no idea why it's controversial that a parent would be told if their kid wants to go by a different name at school, right? Or who think again, to go back to this, and again, I'm sorry for bringing this up again, but it's the Andrew Horvath unvaccinated teachers thing, right?
Yeah, it
Doug
is.
Ford is really popular amongst the kind of former dipper who looked at that Andrew Horvath announcement and said unvaccinated teachers have charter rights too, and went, hell yeah, we do. And like the NDP doesn't know what they're doing, but they've my thing is they've made a decision, right? They've made the decision. Walking back from the decision will piss off everybody, right? Because it'll piss off people who agree that she's an anti-Semite, who like the fact that Merritt was able to take a stand. But frankly, is anybody on the progressive left really going to be like super chastened by this? Like, do you seriously think the people who have been turned off by this, who voted for the Greens in Kitchener Center, who I mean, I think Schreiner's polling like 7, 8 on average, right? This year. Like, do you think that 2, 3% that might have drifted from the NDP to the Greens, do you think they're going to come back because Merritt Stiles, with her legs tucked, with her tail tucked behind her between her legs, suddenly let Sarah Jama back in with a hey, sorry about all that? Like, is that going to work? No, it's just going to piss everybody off on both sides, right?
I think you nailed it with the sunk cost, and I think that really does go both ways. You can't recoup any goodwill from the people you pissed off by kicking her out of caucus. It's done. You have burned that bridge, and you can't. You're just gonna piss off people if you do bring her back, who are still with you. So to me, it's yeah, it's there's no good way to deal with this for Merit Styles, and the best thing to do would have been nothing, but it's too late for that. Apparently, they're already flirting with the idea.
So, I tweeted a joke this morning of like Doug Ford's 401 tunnel plan is like so stupid I don't have to write a column about it, right? And like, so can we take a brief digression into the fact that my Twitter mentions are insane the last like 2 weeks?
It's not getting better on Twitter.
One, it's not getting better, but two, I just keep being called a Russian agent, which like it was funny the first few times people did. Now it's just genuinely annoying me. Because I dare think St. Justin isn't the right solution, but whatever. Um and so honestly, I tweeted that this morning because like, you know, the one thing every federal liberal can unite on is that Doug Ford fucking sucks, right? So like, kind of thought maybe it would be nice to get some likes and to not have people scream at me for once, right? But Greg Brady, who's a radio host in Toronto, does the morning show. It's a good show. I've done it a couple times. Listen to it most days. He just DM'd me on Twitter and went, "You should write about Styles and Sarah Jama." And I sort of went, because I had tweeted something yesterday about this when ex Bonnie Crombieite, who shall remain nameless, tweeted about it. But I'm like, did Styles say something? I saw it. I just lost my goddamn mind. I can't believe she's considering it. It's so laughable to me that she's considering this. Styles was
It's
supposed to be good at this.
it's really, really strange that it got out that she's considering it. This is the kind of thing where if you're gonna pull the trigger, you pull the trigger, but you have to keep it behind closed doors because leaking it at all, the horse is out of the barn now. And you have to say something either way, and you're going to piss people off.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on this. I'm just like befuddled by this. And like, yeah, I'm not a fan of Sarah Jamas, but the thing is that like I can understand, air quotes bad, like making decisions that are like air quotes bad politics for the sake of winning. Right? Like um to go back to trans kids in schools, right? If the next liberal leader really were to need to take like a bad anti-trans rights position to win an election, I would tolerate it, right? Hell, I've tolerated Bonnie Crombie flipping on the carbon tax because we need to win, and the carbon tax is not a winning proposition right now. Um, I just don't understand what she's doing because she's making a stupid decision and an immoral decision at the same time, and I don't really get it. What did you make of Doug's grand pronouncement on the tunnel?
My immediate reaction was they can't seriously be doing this.
I mean, they're
It's
not seriously doing this. They announced
Well,
they were
they're
doing a
not,
feasibility study. Not for you. You know that, obviously.
but this has got to be the stupidest waste of money, even just doing the feasibility study. What are we talking about? A
Well,
40
what did
kilometer
Doug
long
Ford say on Monday?
uh that he specifically said that that Crombie wants us sitting in gridlock, I believe.
No, what did he say that caused all the controversy on Monday? Not about the 401.
Ah, that's right. Yes. Yes,
That
that he
ODSP
doubled down on that.
recipients that ODSP recipients and others who aren't working needs to get off their ASSs and get to work, which he doubled down on Tuesday. But the look, I am like the world's biggest Canadian expert in Linton Crosby and Mark Texture and the concept of dead cat strategies, right? He threw this out there to get off the people on disability support are lazy asses who need to get off, you need to work, quote, which is why I don't really think it's worth a column. It's just really funny to me that he thought that this was a worthwhile line of attack.
Well, it just makes him look completely incompetent.
Yeah, but it's better for a conservative to be viewed as incompetent than to be viewed as heartless. Because if we really cared about competence in Ontario governance, he wouldn't have won again.
That's fair.
Like the whole thing about Doug, the stupid snowstorm stunt of 2022 is actually like the purest distillation of Fordite politics, which is you can be a bumbling buffoon, but as long as people think your heart's in the right place, they will give you an endless benefit of the doubt. Um,
And this is actually something that really plays up in Ontario. Is Doug is fantastic at knowing when to walk it back and knowing when to apologize.
the
Uh,
this is the point I've been making for fucking years now, which is this Justin, if Justin Trudeau apologized as often as Doug Ford did, he'd be at 50% of the polls right now.
yeah,
Ford just coming out and being like, actually, I was totally wrong on the green belt. and his polls just immediately went back to 41%. If you pull up any abacus poll which has the trend line, it's like 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 34 when the green belt happens. Bad poll, bad poll. He apologizes, back to 41. No one cared because he apologized.
Yeah.
Speaking of apologies, what did you make of the speech that I wrote for Justin Trudeau that he will definitely not actually give, but I thought was an interesting rhetorical device?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, you really hit the correct tone in contrition with a sense of forward movement, with a sense of hope and progress behind it. Drawing on the things that have happened and have been done, and understanding where mistakes have been made, but with an eye towards the hopeful sunny days of the future.
And also, because the thing is, like, no one's going to listen to you, A, talk about the successes of the past, and B, no one's going to listen to you talk about Pierre Poilievre being terrible, which he is, and Doug Ford being terrible, and whatever, if you don't admit that you're not perfect, right? The McGuinty, the first ad of the 2011 McGuinty reelect was McGuinty standing in front of a white background and apologizing for where he had gone wrong and admitting that he had not been perfect. And that was very crucial to getting people to listen to the second half of that ad, which nobody remembers. But the second half of that ad was him talking about the fact that class sizes were down, hospital waiting times were down, nurses, teachers, doctors were paid more money. You need to lead with an acknowledgement that you have failed, where you have failed, to get people to give a shit about the accomplishments, and especially to get them to care. Because the thing is that when the liberals attack Doug Ford or attack Danielle Smith or whatever, they do it in a disconjointed way, right? I've been harping on this with Bonnie Crombie, but I'm going to harp on this with Justin Trudeau. If he's the horse we have to back because the caucus isn't going to grow a spine and fucking get rid of him, then we need a coherent fucking message. Telling Chrystia Freeland to call the conservatives MAGA Maple is not gonna, or Maple MAGA is not gonna fucking work. Okay. We need a coherent message that fucking sticks together. And if no one in the fucking PMO or in the fucking LPC is gonna fucking do it, then I guess it's my fucking job to do it. And I will drag this party to 75 seats, or at least die fucking trying if I have to. Because I'm sorry, I am not going to accept that the Liberal Party wins 37 seats and it takes 3 terms to come back from. And frankly, to everybody who is calling me a conservative or saying that I'm taking Russian money or I'm taking rubles or whatever the fuck you want to say to me, I care more about liberalism, progressive values, and the accomplishments of this government than you do, because I am the only fucking person in the public sphere right now who's trying to drag this party to a position where Pierre Poilievre does not win 235 seats and it feels like he can shit rainbows and nobody will care. So yeah, I'm more of a progressive than you are. I'm more of a liberal than you are. And if you keep accusing me of not being a liberal because you're mad that I criticize St. Justin, get the fuck out of here.
How you doing? Did that feel nice?
That was fucking therapeutic. Also, Scott Shepard's too right now, so I'm very happy about that. Um, we're gonna do the football show after this. It's your birthday. I just want to say how great you are and how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate your friendship.
Thanks
I've already
very
said all
much.
these things privately, but I want to say it again. You got anything to say before we dip to do the football show?
Um, just to circle back on, Doug Ford calling homeless people lazy or implying that they're lazy.
It's not
I,
funny. I'm sorry I laughed just now. It's not at all funny. It's fucking horrendous.
it's insane that we have a person so willing to punch down so constantly who is leading this province, who's the premier of this province. It's embarrassing. It's the same kind of embarrassing as it was when his brother was the the laugh of primetime television in the States. This
Was
is just,
was telling people that he has more than enough pussy to eat at home.
yeah, exactly. This is it's sad that we have this person as our premier, and I hope we make better choices.
Yeah. I mean, Main Street is the liberals at 30, so hopefully Bonnie can make some progress and maybe at least put him under some threat. At least put him under enough threat now that he doesn't call an election until spring. At which point, the longer we wait, the more time I think we have for the opposition to get its shit together. So that could be productive. Nathaniel Arfin at Arfin Nathaniel. I do believe that's your Twitter. I'm gonna shout you out on Twitter actually when we're done recording this because I would like you to get more followers on the app formerly known as the Bird app. Um, do you have anything you would like to promote? Okay, well, you're muted and not listening to me, so that's fine. Follow me on Twitter at Scrimshaw. Follow me on read my political betting, NFL, NHL, and whatever else. I have an NHL preview coming out next week at thelives.com, scripted.substack.com. Buy my book, Salvation in the Storm. Like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I genuinely appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being muted when I tried to throw to you.
Yeah, no, I apologize for that.
Thanks, buddy.